Today's daf is daf Chavov. We're up to the top of the page. We had an argument between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva, which we are going to reiterate, where Rabbi Shmuel said that a Shavuos biti, a Shavuos that you uttered with your mouth, and that it says that if you forgot that you made a shegig, the din is that you have to bring a carbon oil and a carbon yodid. So he says that's only talking about future Shavuos, but not if it's about the past. I did eat or I didn't eat. And Kiva says even about the past. So now the Gemara will explain again what the crux of the argument is. Said the Gemara, if you made it said you will eat or you won't eat lahara or lahativ, and then you didn't proceed following your shvuah. All we know is that if it impacts you directly to benefit or to harm you, doesn't do either one. How do you know that you didn't follow through? How do you with your net or your shvuah? How do you know you still bring a carbon over the yodid? Because the Torah says clearly lahara lahativ. It says in the pasuk it says in the pasuk that anything comes out of your mouth. So we expand what? That even things which have no impact on you. For example, I will throw a rock or I won't throw a rock is also included in this carbon oil of the year. But it all has to be about the future. Ainly about the future. The Sha'avar Menayin, how do you know if it's about the past as well? I did eat or I didn't eat. And it turned out to be that you didn't, that you actually swore false. How do you know also you bring a carbon overlated? And this will be followed Rabbi Kiva. So the pasuk begins with a nefesh kisid, which is all inclusive. And it concludes again with all inclusive. Everything the person utters. Rabbi Kiva. So he includes everything. Even past. Rabbi Shmuel says, and that's it, only the future. So Amar Rabbi Akiva, if you're going to be so technical and pedantic, that should follow the pasuk only if it impacts you. Even future, if you're going to throw a stone, why are you chayiv a carbon oil yodid? Things which don't impact you. How do you know? Rabbi Shmuel said, because the Torah expands, it says Asher Yivata Adam, to everything that he utters. So therefore it expands also to throwing rocks. If you believe in Ribuyim, then you have two Ribuyim, and therefore we have to include everything, including the past. So Gemara says, Rabbi Kiva is right. Rabbi Yechon said, Rabbi Shmuel sheshimish es Rabbi Chunya ben Hakana. Rabbi Shmuel learned by Rabbi Chunya ben Hakana Shahaya Deidish as Kol HaTorah Kol. How did his teacher learn the Torah, the Chalal Prat? Remember, we say davening every day that the methodology of learning Torah, one of the 13 principles, is klal prat klal. So, and what's the story? The klal prat klal. We had this a while ago, a couple of weeks ago. A klal is generic, then comes on a prat. The prat comes to limit it only to this prat. Ein b'klal ela mashem prat. Then you have another klal afterwards that comes to expand. It only expands ke'ena prat, similar to the prat. And therefore, just like the prat is future, so too it expands it, but in the future. What? Even if it doesn't impact you directly. That's if you learn klal prat klal. But if you use the methodology of riba miyut riba, it's very different. A riba includes everything. A miyut limits it. That a riba and miyut is the same as if it would have been a klal prat klal, which means it comes to a limit that it should be similar to the miyut. Then if you have a second klal, it comes to be marba everything except something which is directly the opposite. So as we'll see in a minute, therefore Rabbi Shmuel dashes klal prat klal, therefore he only dashes the future, but expands it from impacting you directly. Rabbi Akiva sheshimish as Nachum ish gamzer. Rabbi Akiva's teacher was Nachum ish gamzer, as we had a few places in Shas. So he even he dash in the entire Torah in a manner of riba miyut. Is even not medosh miyut. Therefore, Rabbi Akiva dash in the same way. My Rabbi Akiva the dorish riba miyut. What do you mean? How's he dashing? So he explains. Tanu the brayse. Now we explain exactly how it works. Nefesh kisijma for nefesh swear doesn't what swear any swear riba. Then it's a lahara lehativ is miyut limited only to bad and good. And if you learn riba miyut, it means anything similar to that, which means all future things. Then it's a to Adam, everything that you express, it comes to expand the past as well. Riba includes everything. My riba includes everything, future and past. Or my me, it was excluding something. That which is directly the opposite. And me was excluding dvar mitzvah. If you make a neder about a mitzvah, a shvu about a mitzvah, it's meaningless. It's meaningless. That's what it's for. However, Rabbi Shmuel Dodish Klal Prat, he used the method of Klal Prat. So oy nefesh kisishba levate b'sasayim is a klal. We already had this whole gemara before in the Zayin. That if you Rabbi Shmuel says the methodology to use a klal prat klal. So the klal says that if you swore anything, then it says lahara lehetiv is a prat. and we have a rule, Ein Bechlal El Masha Prat, should be only if you want future and only if it impacts you directly. Then when it is L'chol Asher Yevata Adam, Chazav V'Kol. It's a klal, prat to klal. Klal, prat to klal, you don't get a prat. Therefore, how does it work? That you only include similar to the prat. Ma prat mefurish lahabo, af kol lahabo. Anything in the future over here also. Ahana klal lasu, you have to dvarsh aimem haro lahat tovla. And lahabo. So what are you expanding? Expansion is that not only things will directly impact you, good or bad, but for example, I will throw a rock, I won't throw a rock. They don't directly impact you, it's also included. But it all has to be limited to the future. And the me it says only future tense, not past. So obvious question is we have a riba, we have a mid. The riba comes to expand and the mid comes to exclude. How do we know what to expand, what to exclude? You decided we're expanding, it's still limited to the future, but we're expanding it outside of areas that impact you. Maybe it comes to limit, it has to impact you, but maybe it comes to include the past. I don't know which way to go. So maybe the other way around. What do we know about lahara lehetiv? The words you said right now, there's nothing wrong with it. It's the action you did afterwards. Did you follow your words? You didn't follow your words. And what aveda did you do if you didn't follow your words? Bal yechel, you're not allowed to breach your words. So therefore, what are we expanding to? Another area of bal yechel. Past, the moment you said, I did eat something when you didn't, the words themselves are no good. The problem there is not that you were breaching your words. The problem is you lied. So therefore, we want to learn something in the same category about the future, but expanding to also areas that don't impact you. The exception is the past is not that. The moment you said I ate when you didn't, you lied. He learns it a little bit differently. How do you know it's limited to the future? We're just expanding it in the future. Maybe we should include the past and limit it to lahara lehetiv. So he says interesting. Says Amakra, says the pasuk. Oy nefesh kisishba levate b'svasayim. A person swears to utter with his words. Mi shahashvua kaidemes lebitri. There is talking about that the shvua. This is, by the way, the Gemara for Tuesday. Misha hashvua kaidemes lebitri. Now, what happened? You swore levate b'sasayim. First you swore, and then there's bitri. That means the shvua is going to take place before you broke it, before you did something wrong. You didn't carry out your words. In other words, you're talking about the future. But if you're talking about the past and the act that you're talking about already happened, and then you talk about what happened. So there, the shavua takes place after the bit of assignment. That's how we know. There, the act took place before the shavua. We learned. It says in the pasuk. It says about l'chol asher yivata adam, everything the person expresses, b'shvua v'nela mimeno, and he forgot, and so on. It says the pasuk ha'adam b'shvua, l'chol asher yivata ha'adam b'shvua. It says adam before shvua. So what do we learn? The fact that it says adam means you're totally cognizant of who you are and your wherewithal, and then b'shvua, and then we talk about you made a mistake, you bring a carbon oil, right? V'nelam. So ha'adam b'shvua prat la'anus. If you're an oinus, we'll soon see what an oinus is. But if you're an oinus, it was inadvertent. It's not a shaygig where you're sort of a little bit negligent. You're an oinus. You had no choice. So then you don't have to bring a carbon oil of the Then the pasuk goes on and says v'nelam mimenu, that you totally forgot. V'nelam pratlamazid. If you did it deliberately, you don't bring a carbon oil of the and not like Shavuos Daf, we learned a few days ago that it makes no difference mazid or shaygig. Mimenu. What do you mean from him? Shenis alma mimenu shvua, that he forgot that he made a shvua. Now remember, you use a shvua, there's two components: the fact that I made a vow and what it's about, the subject. So there's the action, and the subject. So I made a shvua that I won't eat bread. So the subject is bread. The shvua is I won't eat. So the pasuk says, "Minel mimenu." What did the pasuk says? Ha'adam b'shvua v'nela mimenu. What did you forget that you made a shvua? In other words, if you made a shvua, your men made a shvua, you just can't remember what it's about, maybe it's different, as we'll soon see. Sorry? Exactly. So we'll see then how much of a shvua. So we'll soon see. He forgot that he made a shvua. What about if he remembered the shvua? He just couldn't remember what it was about. When are you liable for this carbon? He forgot that he swore. Now the Gemara will explain what this price is. First of all, he said, if it was an accident. What's the definition of an accident? Rav Kahana, Rav Asi, like Rav Kahana, Rav Asi, the Rav, they were, every time they finished a shir from the teacher Rav, they say, argue, Mar Omar, Shavuos, I swear, the Hochem Rav, this is exactly what Rav said. Mar Omar Shavuos, the Hochem Rav, I swear this way. Ki also the Kamei the Rav, when once they came before Rav, Omar, Kichad Menayu, they would go to sort it out, and Rav would agree with one of them. Omar Idach, so the other one would say, no, Beshikish Tavoy, after the tshuva, I swore that you said differently. Amalei libach ansach. You really believed what you said. Therefore, that's an oinus. It's not a shegig. It's an oinus. And therefore, you are potter. Now, this is an amazing Gemara, because it seems they did this quite often, as it says everywhere. They did this quite often. And Rav never told them off. We learned how people were so scared to make shuas, even if it was a truthful shua. Because they'll learn the Gemara, the entire world trembled when the Abisha said, "Lesisha, you shouldn't swear." Okay, why are they swearing? I looked everywhere to see if anyone explains why were they swearing. Why was it allowed? We do have a concept, you swear for a mitzvah. There's boy the kai mitzvah, there's baiti kayema, but this is not in that category. Each one was an action, and they believe this is their right, and I swear that I'm right. What do you have to swear for? I don't know. And why didn't he tell them, guys, stop swearing? Don't know. Then he forgot that he swore. He forgot the object. He forgot that he swore. Not forgot the object. Says mother, they smiled in Eretz Yisrael. They said, this doesn't make sense. How is it possible that you remember you swore, but you remember what the object? He said, I swear I won't eat a loaf of bread. He thought what he did say was, I will eat a loaf of bread. So what happened in this case? The Shavuos Inche, he forgot exactly what it was that he swore, but he remembers what this is about. It's about a loaf of bread. He just can't remember if he said, I will eat or I won't eat. Okay? So then, it's the shaygig, and you bring carbon over here. It's a little bit negligent. You should remember what you say. If he remembered the bread, but he doesn't, that if he forgot the shvua, if he remembered the shvua, but he forgot what it's about, what does that mean? So what happened? He made a shvua, I won't eat a loaf of bread. Let's just go back a line. No, I just went back a line. Sorry. He said, Shvua wants to eat a loaf of bread. Right, you're talking about he remembers the shore, and Kasava, he thought, so what happened? He remembers he made a shore, I won't eat bread. But he thought what's in front of him was, he thought that what he said was, I won't eat barley. That's what he thought. So he thought I won't eat barley. The Shavuos say, so in this case, he remembers the Shavuos. He remembers, I won't eat bread. But he forgot what he won't eat. So he remembered what the shvur was. The previous case was he forgot. Did I say, will eat or I won't eat? He forgot the shvur. He remembered the shvur. I won't eat. He just can't remember what it was. When he wheat or when he barley. Or he thought it was barley when it's actually wheat. Kiva, the chef's inchele, since he doesn't remember what it was that he swore about, so what do we remember? Hein hell shvur. So he doesn't really remember the shvur. What was the shvur? If you don't remember what you said, I remember I said I won't eat. That part I remember, but I can't remember if it was wheat or barley. So then you don't remember not only don't you remember the chayfetz, you don't remember the shua either. You're right. It's not two things. Rabbi said this price doesn't make sense. Can't have one without the other. If you don't remember the chayfetz, you don't remember the shua either. So what's the shua? Well, you don't remember the shua, you don't remember the chayfetz either. They both go hand in hand. The shua is made up of two parts. Ask Rabbi, why not? Why do you say you cannot find where you don't remember the object but you remember the shvur? I'll tell you how. Well, he said he said I won't eat wheat, and he remembers that, but not that he forgot what it is. But he struck his hand out, stretched his hand, and take out a bread of barley, but also and what happened was he picked up wheat. So he didn't know what the chayfetz was. That's what it means. He remembered the shua. And you know exactly what he swore. I want to eat wheat. But he thought he was eating barley. And he thought it was barley and he was eating it. The Shavuos Daf, he remembers the Shavuos clearly. He doesn't remember the object. He didn't know what that. Now he doesn't remember the object. He didn't know the object was right now. That's pshat. Even though on Shabbos we call that a masasik, and on Shabbos you're potter. But remember, Shabbos is unique because it's called meleches machshavos. We have all these didn't, and not in other places. And especially we have a concept that when it comes to masasik bechalovim v'aroyes, if you have any pleasure, shekeinene, even though you don't know whether that was trade or anything else, you're totally chayiv. So you'd be chayiv. I said, I don't understand. What's he chayiv a carbon for? Because what he's holding in his hand. So l'chayda hell and shvu, he doesn't remember that he's not allowed to eat what he's eating right now. Which means, so what did he forget? That the shvu is related to this. So he forgot that he has a shvu. On this, what he's doing right now, he doesn't think there's a shvu. He thinks it's barley. Because he thinks the bread that he's eating is barley, so as far as he's concerned, there's no shvu here. So not only there's no wheat, there's no shvuah because the shvuah is only on wheat. So what he telling me is separating the two. Ultimately, it's really one and the same, or the same thing in other words. The high pass, me hell shvuah. At the end of the day, is also involved that you didn't realize that there's a shvuah. You thought there's no shvuah on this particular bread. That's hell shvuah. But Rabbi Yisrael will say, how will he answer that? If you would have told him, hey, this bread is weak, he would walk away, which means he remembers the shvuah. He just didn't know the shvuah is related to this piece of bread. That's called remembering a shvuah. He just forgot the problem is the piece he's holding on to. Therefore, what's the problem? What's the trigger? He didn't realize that this is the bread that's an issue. But Rav Nachman turned around to his Rebbe. Rav Nachman, he said, "What about what happens? You forgot the shvuah and you forgot the chayfus. You're telling me that if you forgot the shvuah, you bring korban of yedid. If you forgot that this is the chayfus, that's the object of the shvuah, then you don't bring what do you call? You throw it barley, whatever it is. Then you don't bring korban of yedid. What happened? You forgot both. The fact is, you forgot the shvuah, so you bring chayiv. So you should be potter. Since you also forgot a chayfetz, maybe you're totally potter. That's just showing you whether he's saying it's definitively potter or he's asking maybe he's still potter. Let's see. If you tell him, hey, you made a shvuah, he would walk right away. Then you see what's the main thing that he forgot that he made about. But if you tell him, hey, this is wheat, and right he walks away, then what did he forget? The fact that this is wheat. It doesn't make sense. Even if he remembers that it's wheat, but what is it that he remembered also that he made a shvuah? He remembers both. And why is he walking away from wheat? Because he remembered I made a shvuah. And why would he walk away from mine with shvuah? Because he remembered it's wheat. So they go hand in hand. No. Boy, a question. How did he ever have an example of a shvuas bitu about the past? He said that I didn't eat or I did eat, right? Rabbi Kiva says you had to bring a korban. You swore I did not eat the bread yesterday morning. Turned out to be you did. According to Rabbi Kiva, not Rabbi Kiva says you bring a korban earlier. When? If it's a shagig. How is it ever possibly a shagig? If he knew at the time that he did eat and he's lying, amazing. He's deliberate. And he did lo yada. Honestly, that's not a shagig. A shagig is that that you didn't know there was bread or this bread or wheat or whatever it is. Here at the time when he said it, he thought that that's the truth. He thought that, and we just said before, like Rav Kana Ramasi. Well, you thought that what you said in my name was the right thing. If your heart thought it was the right thing, real, there's no shaking it. No, it's an honest. It's not your fault. It's like an accident. No, it's an accident as well. If you talk about yesterday, if he did remember, it's amazing. If he didn't remember, it's an honest. So what is he? How is it possible to be shaking?
What it was.
Knew what?
So he knew it was wheat back yesterday.
No.
But when he made a shvuah, he forgot that he actually ate wheat.
So at the moment we don't care about 5 minutes ago. The moment he made a shvuah, he thought that what he ate yesterday was not wheat. So therefore he swore, thinking believing that that's the truth. So that's not a shayt, it's an einus. You know what it make a chiddush. You know what it be having on Shabbos as well. You know what it is. You knew that you're not allowed to swear false, but you thought you don't bring a korban. And that's called a shigigas korban, and that's enough to be a shagig. As far as a korban is concerned, bring a korban, because you thought that there's no chiv of korban in this case. You thought it's only lahaba, only if about the future and I didn't keep it, but if about the past, I'm a liar. I don't bring a korban. I knew the issue was forbidden. I didn't know him chayav a korban. I didn't know you chayav a korban. Keman, who does this follow? The view of Munbus. The Ammar, he said, Shigigas carbon, even though you knew what you're doing is an Avera, but you thought that there's no carbon involved there. For example, if there's no chorus, you thought that the rule of carbon on, you do an Aveda, like Avodah Zorah. If there's chorus, you bring carbon. But there's no chorus when it comes to swearing, Shavuos Daf, so you thought there's no carbon involved. And that's sufficient to be a Shagi. Like you knew in Shabbos, he didn't know this is Malach. So that's a Shagi. Shigas carbon, Says the Gemara, that's what it is, only like Mumbas. No, I feel the same Rabbanon. Even the Rabbanon will agree when it comes to Shavuos Edus that it's a valid shaking. Why? Can like pliga Rabbanon Mumbas. When do they argue in Hilchos Shabbos by Mumbas say if you knew that this is wrong, but you just didn't know there's a carbon? They say that's not called a shaking. That's like a mazid. Ela b'chala teda kula the entire teda the lab chidushu. It's not a chidush. Every kaddish has in it carbon chatas. So therefore, the fact you didn't know is not shaking. I will hoch here the chidushu. Here's a chiddush. There might carbon. Nowhere else do you find an avera where sachakul all it is a lab, and the worst to do is you get malchus that you bring a carbon. Why? We learn from Avodah Zarah, which is a paradigm for carbon chatas, and there you get chorus if you did it deliberately. And here you bring, even though there's no chorus. After it's a valid shaking. Yitaka didn't know. It's a valid shaking. What happens? You made a shvu on a loaf of bread, you made a shvu on a loaf of bread, and suddenly you're dying. You need to eat the bread. Mao, are you allowed to eat the bread? Someone asked the question. Mistaken. If a guy is dying, the kol is suspended. Mar. Of course, you should tell him go ahead. Element means that you're very, very hungry, but you're not dying. You're not dying, but you're very, very hungry. And you ate it, now, what's the question? When you only bring a carbon when it says shav midiyase. In other words, when you realize, oh, I made a mistake. Had you known at the time, you wouldn't have done it. This guy, had he known at the time, he still would have eaten it because he's starving. He's not dying, but he's very, very hungry. He still would have eaten it. And therefore, is there a carbon oil together? He made a shagig. Do we bring a carbon in this case or not? Can we call it shav midiyase? We learned shav midiyase, maybe carbon ashgagase. Only if you did tshuva. In other words, had you known that this is the situation, you wouldn't have done it. But this person over here, like shav midiyase, maybe carbon gase. But here he is not shav midiyase, and therefore it's not tshuva. Occasionally learns different shot. He said, so why do you have to say mitzvah? Just say he's a person we know that he'll eat it regardless. A person who will eat this food regardless, and for whatever reason, and we don't care why, but he forgot that he made a shul. He's a Baal Taiva. He really likes his food, not because it's mitzvah. What's the relevance of mitzvah here? So Teshuvah is very interesting. This person has a guilt conscience. He has a guilt trip. If he would have known that this thing is, he's not allowed to eat it, and he really likes it, not because he really likes it, he would have eaten it. So he's mitzvah. Please help me forget that I made a shul. It's mitzvah. Why am I remembering? Why do I have to feel guilty? And as long as he remembers, he won't eat it. But he's mitzvah himself to forget, and he taka forgot. Is that called a shogeg? So because he went out of his way to try to forget that this is the thing that you made a shvu on, that's not called a shogeg. That's not a real shav midiyasai.